Hello everyone, and welcome to my YNR Official 24 channel. Matt and Arrest Victor Newman, kindling a disagreement that no bone. Especially Victor. Aphorism coming, and it all begins in the suffocating silence of a cold, retired room where Matt lies bruised, scarified, and slightly conscious, the echo of Victor's power brewing over him like a curse, because Matt knows too important, has seen too much, and has come a liability in Victor's ruthless chess game, a pawn meant to be offered without guilt. Yet what Victor doesn't know is that Chelsea has been still connecting the blotches for weeks, replaying every cryptic comment, every unforeseen exposure, every taradiddle that didn't relatively line up, her instincts screaming that commodity was horribly wrong, and the moment she realizes Matt isn't just dissolved but has been taken, her fear turns into resoluteness, her guilt turns into fury, and her love, for verity, for justice, for the innocent, turns into an armament sharper than anything Victor has ever faced, because this time, Chelsea doesn't cry, doesn't supplicate, doesn't vacillate. She acts, storming into the GSPD with substantiation gripped in her pulsing hands, her voice shaking but strong as she drops names, locales, timelines, and eventually says the words "no bone." Ever dares to say out loud Victor Newman is behind this, and the room freezes, the officers change stupefied aesthetics, the weight of that blameworthiness hanging heavy in the air, because Victor isn't just a man, he's an institution, a force, a legend who has escaped consequences more times than anyone can count. But Chelsea doesn't back down. She pushes harder, revealing interdicted dispatches, security footage, and a final indication that points directly to an abandoned storehouse. On the outskirts of city, and as the police rally, enchantresses slicing through the night, the story explodes into stir, cutting to Victor himself standing in the murk of Newman Enterprises, confident, composed, hugely convinced he's 10 ways ahead of everyone, ignorant that the walls are closing in, because Chelsea's decision sets off a chain response that rattles every corner of Genoa City. With Adam seeing commodity is wrong before the news indeed breaks, his gut ringing as if fate itself is advising him. While Nikki feels a bite, she can't explain, her hand tensing around her glass as she whispers Victor's name like a prayer and a curse each at formerly, and also the raid happens. Police flood tide the storehouse, ordnance drawn, voices crying, doors crashing open, and there, in the dim light, they find Matt, alive but shaken, his eyes filling with gashes as he realizes help has eventually come, that someone believed him, that Chelsea didn't give up, and as he's carried out on a stretcher, wrapped in a mask, the verity begins to unravel, because Matt doesn't stay silent presently. He talks, revealing how Victor hovered him, manipulated him, ordered him to vanish for the lesser good, and those words echo with bitter irony as the police turn their attention to Victor himself, marching into Newman Enterprises with a leave that sends shockwaves through the structure. Workers firmed in unbelief as Victor Newman, the untouchable Goliath, demands answers, demands attorneys, demands control, only to find none of it works this time, because the substantiation is real, the substantiation is alive, and Chelsea's courage has shifted the balance of power, leading to the moment suckers will no way forget Victor being attended out in bind, his jaw gripped, his eyes burning with rage and unbelief, locking onto Chelsea across the room as if trying to blackjack her one last time, but she doesn't blench, doesn't look down, her heart pounding as she realizes she's done the unbelievable. She's taken down Victor Newman, and the fate is just as explosive, with Adam torn between shock and complicated relief, floundering with the consummation that his father's reign of fear may eventually be cracking, while Nikki collapses into gashes, devastated, disaccorded, loving Victor yet unfit to deny the darkness he's unleashed. And Genoa City erupts into chaos as alliances shatter, secrets slip, and everyone chooses sides, because Victor's arrest doesn't end the story, it detonates it, unleashing old adversaries empty for vengeance, old victims chancing their voices, and new pitfalls rising from the murk, all while Chelsea grapples with the consequences of her choice, knowing she did the right thing but stewing the retribution that could follow, especially when Victor, indeed behind bars, begins conniving his comeback, brooding pledges of revenge, because if there's one thing everyone knows, it's that Victor Newman no way goes down still, and yet this time feels different, heavier, more final, because Matt's deliverance isn't just a save, it's a symbol, evidence that Victor's power has limits, that fear can be broken, and that one stalwart decision can change everything, leaving suckers screaming OMG. As the screen fades out on Chelsea standing alone, exhausted but unbroken, gaping into an uncertain future where justice has eventually struck back, but the war for Genoa City is far from over. Matt and Arrest Victor doesn't slow down for indeed a alternate. It mutates, spreading through Genoa City like a seismic earthquake that cracks open secrets long buried and forces every single character to defy the cost of Victor Newman's reign, starting with a grim, fluorescent, lit interrogation room where Victor sits gravestone, faced across from the investigators, his hands cuffed but his mind still sharp, still calculating, still induced. This is nothing further than a temporary vexation, because Victor has always believed the law bends for him, that fear and plutocrat and influence are stronger than bind. Yet this time the questions cut deeper, sharper, circling around Matt, the storehouse, the pitfalls, the recorded calls, and Victor's confidence flickers just for a moment when he realizes the substantiation isn't particular presently, it's alive, breathing, talking, pointing straight at him. While across city Matt lies in a sanitarium bed girdled by machines telephoning steadily, Chelsea sitting beside him like a guardian angel and a dog face each at formerly, replaying everything in her head the moment she picked up the phone, the moment she said Victor's name to the police, the moment she knew there was no turning back, and when Matt eventually opens his eyes, weak but determined, he doesn't just thank her, he apologizes, confessing how Victor manipulated him with pledges, pitfalls, and fear, how he felt trapped, induced no bone would believe him if he spoke out, and Chelsea's eyes fill with gashes not just from relief but from rage, because she realizes how numerous lives Victor has still broken this way, how numerous people stayed silent because power spooked them into submission, and this consummation hardens her resoluteness, indeed as Adam storms into the sanitarium, torn piecemeal by feelings he doesn't want to feel. His wrathfulness at Victor battling with a sickening familiarity of disappointment. Because no matter how numerous times his father crosses the line, some part of Adam always hopes this time will be different, and yet seeing Matt bruised and broken eventually forces Adam to face a verity he's avoided his entire life. Victor doesn't just destroy adversaries. He destroys anyone who threatens his control, indeed laterally, indeed accidentally. And this verity explodes when Adam confronts Chelsea in the hallway, his voice low and raw, demanding to know if she understands what she's unleashed, if she knows Victor will come for her, for Matt, for anyone involved, and Chelsea doesn't deny it. She looks Adam straight in the eye and says she'd do it again, because letting Victor win would mean getting complicit, and those words hit Adam harder than any punch, forcing him to question whether guarding Victor has ever truly defended anyone at each. Meanwhile, Nikki's world collapses in slow stir as the news spreads. Journalists swarming, captions screaming Victor Newman arrested, and she retreats into the quiet of the estate, clinging recollections of the man she loves and the monster the world now sees, her grief tangled with denial, because admitting Victor is shamefaced feels like betraying a continuance of fidelity, and yet when she hears Matt's statement, hears the fear in his voice, commodity inside her fractures. Because Nikki knows that tone, she's heard it before, from people Victor crushed and also dismissed as contributory damage. And her internal battle becomes unsupportable, torn between standing by her hubby and eventually admitting the desolation he's caused, while at Newman Enterprises chaos reigns as board members brute, stock prices wobble, and rivals circle like predators seeing blood in the water. Jack Abbott watching from a distance with grim satisfaction but also advise, because indeed wounded, Victor Newman is dangerous, and sure enough, behind bars Victor begins pulling strings, making calls, planting seeds of mistrustfulness, oohing half-trueness meant to discredit Chelsea, framing her as unstable, emotional, reckless, hopeless to ruin him, and for a moment it works, as public opinion fractures, some praising Chelsea as an idol while others question her motives, dragging up her once struggles, her miscalculations, her internal health, trying to rewrite the narrative into commodity unattractive and cruel. And Chelsea feels the weight of it all crashing down, fear clawing at her casket as she wonders if she's strong enough to repel Victor's retribution, if doing the right thing will bring her everything. But also Matt insists on speaking intimately, his voice shaking but clear as he tells his story, naming Victor without vacillation, describing the fear, the insulation, the pitfalls, and in that moment commodity shifts again, because the verity, formerly spoken, becomes contagious, inspiring others to come forward with stories of intimidation and compulsion, forming a ruinous pattern that indeed Victor's attorneys struggle to contain, while the Newmans are forced into insolvable choices. Nick furious that his father's conduct are tearing the family piecemeal, Victoria coldly realistic as she fights to save the company while distancing herself emotionally, and Adam caught in the middle, his fidelity eventually cracking as he realizes guarding Victor now means betraying his own heart. And as the case builds, pressures explode when Victor is denied bail, his fury erupting in a nipping oath that this is end over, that Chelsea has made the biggest mistake of her life, his eyes burning with the pledge of vengeance. But Chelsea, shaken yet bent, refuses to hide, refusing to be silenced, understanding now that courage isn't the absence of fear but the decision to move forward anyway. And as Genoa City braces for the coming chapter, one thing becomes terrifyingly clear: Victor's arrest hasn't ended his influence, it's exposed it, setting the stage for a brutal reckoning where verity, power, and survival collide. And as the screen fades on Chelsea standing at Matt's bedside, holding his hand as dawn breaks through the sanitarium window, suckers are left breathless, screaming OMG, knowing this plot has changed everything, and the battle between justice and control is only just beginning. Victor Newman and the deliverance of Matt don't bring relief so much as they rip open a crack that has been spoiling for decades, forcing every character to face the verity they've spent times avoiding, starting with Chelsea, who wakes up each morning with the weight of her decision pressing down on her casket like a gravestone, because frippery doesn't feel heroic in the fate, it feels lonely, it feels intimidating, it feels like standing in the open while gunners lurk in every shadow. And as the whispers grow louder, online, in boardrooms, in coffee shops, Chelsea learns the brutal reality of challenging a man like Victor. Indeed, when he's locked down, his reach is far and wide, his abandon subtle and ruthless, planting dubieties, spreading rumors, eroding trust. And when Chelsea overhears two non-natives questioning her motives, calling her unstable and vengeful, the words cut deeper than any direct trouble, reminding her that verity doesn't always win fairly, that justice can be unattractive and cruel before it becomes right. Yet despite the fear eating at her, Chelsea refuses to retreat, anchoring herself in the knowledge that Matt is alive because she acted. That silence would have been the real crime, and that quiet determination becomes her guard as she prepares to swear, knowing sharp well Victor's attorneys will tear into her history, her miscalculations, her vulnerabilities, weaponizing everything she's ever plotted with. And the pressure explodes in the courtroom when Matt eventually takes the stage, the room holding its breath as he recounts his fire in painful detail, his voice breaking as he describes the moment he realized Victor intended to make him vanish, not directly, not temporarily, but permanently. And indeed hardened observers feel the bite of those words, while Victor sits unmoving, his expression sculpted from gravestone, betraying nothing. Yet those who know him stylish see the flicker of computation in his eyes, the gears formerly turning, planning his coming move. Indeed, as the walls near in, and Nikki watches from the gallery, her heart shattering with every judgment, because Matt's evidence glasses trueness she's refused to admit for times, forcing her to defy the intimidating possibility that love has dazed her to atrocity, that fidelity has enabled detriment. And when her aspect meets Chelsea's across the room, there's a moment heavy with implied emotion, remorse, gratefulness, anguish, and a grudging respect, because Nikki knows it took unconceivable courage to do what Chelsea did, courage she herself no way set up. And outside the courthouse, Genoa City divides itself into camps, demurs erupting, some demanding Victor's release, others chanting for responsibility. The megacity itself getting a battlefield over power and honor, while before unrestricted doors the Newman family fractures further, with Victoria pushing for a hard separation between the company and her father's legal agony, Nick openly condemning Victor's conduct in a stunning interview that sends shockwaves through the press, and Adam twisting as his identity crumbles, because if Victor isn't the man he believed, or pretended to believe, also who's Adam without that struggle to win his blessing? And this empirical reckoning pushes Adam toward an unanticipated alliance with Chelsea, not romantic, not novelette-ish, but predicated in collective understanding. Two people who have survived Victor in different ways eventually admitting the damage he's foisted, and this alliance proves vital when new substantiation shells fiscal records, secret nets, shadow operatives, that make up a picture indeed darker than anyone imagined, widening the case from a single crime into a pattern of methodical intimidation, and Victor's legal platoon scrambles, resorting to aggressive tactics that border on unethical, farther alienating the public, while Victor himself grows more isolated, his usual network of patriots lacing as fear of association outweighs devotion, and for the first time in his life, Victor jests commodity close to vulnerability, a consummation that his conglomerate may outlast him but his myth is worsening, and that terrifies him further than captivity ever could. Yet indeed, in this moment of reckoning, Victor refuses guilt, adhering to the belief that everything he's done was justified, that power demands immolation, that those who get hurt simply weren't strong enough to survive his world, and this nipping worldview becomes the final nail in his public image when a recorded discussion leaks, revealing his complete lack of remorse, kindling outrage, and pushing indeed former sympathizers to distance themselves. And as sentencing looms, Chelsea stands at the center of a converted Genoa city. No longer just a survivor but a catalyst, someone whose single act of defiance has shifted the balance of power, inspiring others to speak, to repel, to demand better, and however sweat still murk her way, she learns that courage multiplies when participated, that standing over alone can spark a movement, and in the final moments before the verdict, as Victor is led into the courtroom one last time, he locks eyes with Chelsea again, but this time the intimidation is gone, replaced by commodity far more unsettling recognition, because he knows now that she didn't just challenge him, she changed the rules of the game, and as the gavel rises and the screen fades to black, suckers are left breathless, hearts contending, screaming OMG, knowing that no matter the outgrowth, Genoa City will no way be the same again. OMG, and just when it feels like the story has reached its emotional breaking point, it tightens its grip one last time, dragging everyone into a quiet, ruinous fate that proves some explosions don't roar. They echo, moping in the air long after the original blast, because the verdict, whatever the legal wording, lands like a blast across Genoa City, rewriting futures in ways no bone completely anticipated, and as Victor Newman is led down, no longer the untouchable king but a man eventually forced to face consequences, the silence in the courtroom is blaring, broken only by the soft sob Nikki can no longer suppress, her grief raw and complicated, mourning not just the man she loves but the vision she lived inside for so numerous times, while Chelsea stands frozen, not triumphant, not relieved, but emotionally drained, realizing that justice doesn't come with fireworks or applause, it comes with prostration, with scars, with the creepy knowledge that doing the right thing can still leave wreckage behind, and in the days that follow, Genoa City moves else, cautiously, as if hysterical to breathe too deeply, because Victor's shadow still looms indeed in his absence, yet commodity abecedarian has shifted, a quiet recalibration of power. With Newman Enterprises forced into translucency it has no way known, Victoria tensing her grip on the company with icy determination, covenanting it'll survive without fear tactics, while Nick pulls down entirely, choosing integrity over heritage, and Adam, for the first time in his life, feels untethered, doubtful who he's without Victor as his axis, yet strangely lighter, as though a lifelong weight has eventually been lifted, and this fragile new reality brings unanticipated moments of humanity. Like when Nikki seeks out Chelsea intimately, No cameras, no allegations, just two women standing in the wreckage of Victor's choices. And though the discussion is painful, awkward, and efficient, it ends with commodity neither anticipated.